He pinned her against the wall in a dark alley and kissed her hard. But then he suddenly pulled away and left her with one cold word. He called her disgusting. This was the man who had just saved her from a violent attack. The same man who had broken her heart only hours before. It all started when she woke up alone in a hospital bed. A nurse gently told her the terrible news that she had lost the baby. She had a miscarriage and had no family to call. As she was dealing with the loss, her phone rang. It was her boss, Wen Tingzhou. His voice was icy as he ordered her to get to a party in 30 minutes. She tried to explain that she couldn't, but he had already hung up. She dragged herself out of the hospital and arrived at the fancy party 3 minutes late. Wen Tingzhou coldly pointed out that she was late before turning to a young college student, Cangyue, his new favorite. His friends made fun of her, revealing the cruel truth. Since Cangyue couldn't drink, her boss had called her from her hospital bed to take her place. Her job was to drink for them. Without a word, she started drinking, one glass after another, finishing bottles as the men cheered. She was like a workhorse, a tool, and she would do her job. When Cangyue asked to go home, Wen Tingzhou left without looking back. He abandoned his loyal secretary after she drank herself sick for his business. Stumbling out into the night, she was cornered by some thugs. It turned out they were there to collect a debt. Her own parents had sold her to these men. Just as they were about to drag her away, Wen Tingzhou showed up out of nowhere. He fought them off with scary efficiency. While protecting her, a knife stabbed him in the back. Ignoring the wound, he took care of the last attacker before turning to her. As she stared at his bleeding back, a memory flashed in her mind. She remembered another time, another wound when she gently cleaned a scar on his back in a quiet bathroom. He had been hurt for her before. She asked him why he saved her, confused by his mixed signals. That's when he kissed her. It was a moment of intense passion, followed by a harsh rejection as he left her alone again in the dark alley. His voice was cold as he demanded an explanation. A contract with a wrong decimal point had turned a $50 million budget into just $5 million. The mistake was made by Cangyue, the new assistant, but his cold stare was fixed on her. This was her reward for 3 years of loyal service. Just hours earlier, a coworker had warned her not to take the blame for the new assistant's error. But Lu Zhangyu was the chief secretary and would handle things by the rules. According to company policy, a new employee who makes such a big mistake can be fired on the spot. But in her boss's office, the rules suddenly changed. Cangyue cried and said it was all her fault, that she had been too careless. He instantly became protective. He yelled at Lu Zhangyu that if she hadn't taken the day off, this wouldn't have happened. It was her responsibility. What he didn't know was that her day off was spent in a hospital bed, alone, after having a miscarriage. The nurse's words still rang in her ears. The baby was already gone when she arrived. That's when his call came, ordering her to a party, because his new favorite couldn't drink. She had obeyed, drinking for his business until she passed out, only to be left behind by him and sold to thugs by her own parents. He had appeared then, a violent savior, fighting off her attackers and taking a knife in the back for her. He had pulled her into a dark alley, kissed her with desperate passion, then pushed her away, calling her disgusting. And now, he was blaming her for what happened that very night. He said coldly that the secretary's office was full and ordered her to give her position to Cangyue. That was the final straw. After everything she had been through, this was her reward. She looked at the man she had followed for 3 years, the man she had suffered for, and saw a stranger. She threw the files on his desk and said she was quitting. Later, at her friend's apartment, she decided to make it official. Her friend was shocked and found the hospital papers in her bag, realizing she had a miscarriage. But there was no time to be sad. A text message came from him, ordering her to come downstairs. He was waiting. She went down to face him one last time. He stood by his expensive car with a cold smirk on his face. He said her name, his voice full of condescension, and remarked that she had grown a backbone. She slammed the files on his desk and declared she quit. He looked up, not bothered at all, as she stood before him shaking with anger. He asked if she was throwing a fit, his voice dripping with condescension. After 3 years of loyal service, after losing his child, this was her reward. Just an hour before, she had come back from a month-long business trip to find her desk taken by a new younger assistant. Her coworkers gossiped in the break room, saying the boss was driving the new girl to and from work every day. When Lu Zhangyu returned to her desk, Cangyue was there, apologizing for taking her spot. Then she was ambushed. Her manager accused her of a huge mistake in a contract, but she hadn't made the error. He wouldn't let her go. She reminded him he already had a new favorite and asked why they couldn't just end things peacefully. He growled, asking if she was questioning him. Inside the car, he pinned her against the seat and kissed her hard. She fought back, slapping him across the face. He was furious, asking how she dared to hit him. He told her the new girl was different, well-bred and traditional, not like her. He said she was just a promiscuous woman who wasn't worth his love. She screamed in her mind, wondering how he could not know she had given him a child. She said she would go on the business trip, her voice empty, to make way for him and his new love. As she walked away, he sat alone in the car, He got a call that the Gu family was hosting a charity banquet and had invited him. A plan started forming in his mind. That night, she went back to his apartment to find him waiting. He grabbed her, pulling her onto the sofa, and kissed her again. He whispered, asking if she missed him. She insisted they were over. But he only laughed, saying it wasn't over until he said it was. He leaned in, his voice a low growl, telling Secretary Liu she was getting him excited. The moment the huge art installation started to fall, he shouted a warning and ran down the aisle. But in a shocking act of betrayal, he ran right past the woman he'd been with for 3 years. He dove to protect his new favorite, Bai Yu, from the falling debris. It was only then that Lu Mi understood everything. Seeing the man she loved protect another woman, she made a split-second decision. Just hours earlier, she had stood before him, demanding he finally sign her resignation. Years ago, he saved her, paying off a $3 million debt. But for the next 3 years, she repaid him with her body, a fact she brutally reminded him of. She told him their debt was settled, knowing his heart truly belonged to Bai Yu. He coldly agreed, admitting he had never loved her, and that she knew her place. Yet, he still refused to let her go. He forced her to work her final 3 days on a project run by the very woman who had replaced her. What she didn't know was that she was walking into a trap. Bai Yu called her to the event hall, asking her to do a final safety check on the ropes that were set up to fail. Lu Mi, always careful, checked the equipment, completely unaware she was being set up for the coming disaster. She woke up in a hospital bed, not to a hero's welcome, but to a cold, heartless accusation. With Bai Yu watching, the man told her that her injuries were her own fault. He claimed the security cameras were mysteriously broken, but that a worker saw her as the last person to touch the loosened ropes. The man, furious, yelled at Lu Mi for causing her own trouble. But she stood her ground, denying she had touched anything. Just then, Bai Yu, pretending to be unsure, said she saw Lu Mi pull on the rope. The man immediately believed her, accusing Lu Mi of being jealous. Crushed by his complete lack of trust after 3 years together, Lu Mi made a final stand. She made a bet with Bai Yu, a slap in the face if she could prove her innocence. Bai Yu, sure the evidence was gone, boldly accepted. What she didn't know was that Lu Mi had a plan. In under 10 minutes, a man arrived. He was a vlogger she'd noticed filming at the event. He nervously handed over his phone, which had a video proving Lu Mi was never near the rope. Instead, the video clearly showed Bai Yu, who had said she was too scared to go near the scaffolding, secretly messing with the ropes herself. The truth was finally out. The man, seeing the video proof that cleared Lu Mi, was shocked. Lu Mi, still weak but defiant, pointed out that he had been fooled, accusing him of wrongly believing Bai Yu's lies. Lu Mi then confronted Bai Yu, saying that if she had really been worried about safety, she wouldn't have needed to check the ropes herself. Lu Mi went on to explain that she had already turned in her resignation. She also said she would be filing for workers' compensation, as her recovery would keep her from going back to work. She then asked them to leave, saying she would have the hospital give her a certificate. The man visits her, bringing flowers, and says he's worried. He claims that he and their parents miss her, and that they want her to come home. But Lu Mi refuses, saying that she will not be coming back. She accuses them of only wanting her back because they thought she was their long-lost daughter. She tells them that they are lying and that they only care about her status. The man insists that they love her, but Lu Mi doesn't believe him. She declares that she knows their real intentions, and that they will not get away with it. The scene ends with Lu Mi promising to expose their lies and make them pay for what they did. In front of his own parents, the man coldly ends a 3-year relationship. He says that no one ever said they were in a relationship. Just hours before, she had stood defiantly in his office, demanding he sign her resignation papers. He sneered, telling her that after years as his chief secretary, she was nothing without him. But her mind was made up. He finally signed, pushing the paper across the desk and warning her not to regret walking out that door. As she turned to leave, his mother called, completely unaware, happily inviting them both to a fancy crab dinner. Zhang Yue knew she was walking into a trap, but agreed to go one last time. At the dinner table, his mother fussed over her, noticing how thin she'd gotten and scolding her son for not paying attention. But the warmth of his parents only made his coldness hurt more. The moment his mother brought up their wedding plans, he dropped the bomb. He denied everything and stormed out in anger, leaving his parents speechless. As they were in shock, the woman calmly told the truth. She had already officially quit. This dinner was her final goodbye. She remembered lying alone in a hospital bed, her head bandaged, being told he already had a new woman by his side. It was his repeated cruelty that gave her the strength to finally leave. She walked out of the house, leaving the mess of their life behind, but he wasn't done. He chased after her, grabbing her arm, his face full of rage. He forcefully kisses the woman he just threw away, demanding she come back to him. She scoffs, asking if he isn't with Bai Yu now and if touching her doesn't make him feel guilty. But he only sneers, calling his new girl just a tool. This arrogance comes right after she called him disgusting and walked away. Alone at his grandfather's grave, he pours a drink, his tough act falling apart. He asks the empty air if he did the wrong thing. He admits he really loves her, but she's the daughter of the Gu family, the daughter of the man who hurt his grandfather. His heart is torn between love and a deep need for revenge.